What's up, guys? Another week down, another week to go. New Comic Book Day is always a blast, and I'm always looking forward to the next one. So today, I want to talk about New Comic Book Day, January the 27th of 2021. But before I ramble too long, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, follow, connect. Wherever you're at, I'm probably there too. So just click a button, set a notification, and you'll get all the latest content updates wherever you might be. Future State has been a very exciting rollout to me. I think part of it is it's better than what anyone expected. I think the other part is my expectations were set low enough that they had all the opportunity in the world to impress me. And so far, they have week after week. The first couple of books I want to talk about come from Future State. And these are the ones that they'll be releasing for the 27th of January. AQUAMAN, Batman Superman, Legion of Superheroes, Suicide Squad, and Superman vs. the Impervious Lex. Those are all brand new number ones in the Future State continuity. And so I'll be checking all of those out and seeing which ones I like, which ones I don't like, and what I'll probably read a number 2 of. Dark Detective number 2 is also going to be dropping, and that's kind of exciting. I just finished listening to First Issue Club's review of Dark Detective number 1, so it kind of refreshed everything in my mind as to what happened in that book. And I'm excited to see what happens in the second one, because the first one was kind of cool. You know, it was interesting to see where Bruce Wayne has been, what he's been through over this gap of time that we haven't known him. But at the end of the first one, he dons a new suit, he loses the cape, and it changes the way that he interacts with the environment. Once he loses the cape, he has less drag, so he can move a little faster, but it also means he can't fall from nearly as high without getting injured. And so I'm excited to see how he interacts with the world with this new suit with no cape and everything. I feel like it's going to take a more parkour style turn, you know. He's probably a lot more agile. I think he's going to turn into more of a almost like a Daredevil style vigilante. And that's going to be interesting. I also want to see how he interacts with the magistrate, because we don't know exactly what his position, like how he got where he's at. We don't know if this is, because he tells us he's out of money. So I'm excited to find out, like, and the magistrate knows that that Bruce Wayne and Batman were the same person. So it's interesting to find out if he was considered like a terrorist or something, and so the magistrate was able to take all of his money and everything away. Or if these are the rippling effects of Tynion taking away his money in Batman, or if there's something else going on. So I'm excited to find out more of Bruce Wayne's backstory and find out what he's been up to while we don't know. The rest of the books on my list for this week are mostly, it looks like pretty much all of it is indies. So the first one I want to talk about a little bit, Dead End Kids, The Suburban Job number 1. This is from Frank Gogol, printed by Source Point Press. And I really enjoyed Dead End Kids, the original trilogy story. And I'm not sure, I think this one's actually going to be a little bit longer. I don't know if it's going like 6 or if it's ongoing. I don't remember exactly what he said about that. But I have read the first issue, and I actually have some other issues that I need to read as well. I think I have the first 3. But I have read the first one, and I really like it because it still carries a lot of the spirit of Dead End Kids, the original trilogy, but there's more going on, and the world's a little bit bigger, and it feels like the story is almost like the opposite. The first books were about this collective of kids, you know. It was about some friends and how they felt kind of isolated from the world and from their parents. They felt like they couldn't connect with them, but they found this group of friends that brought them all together. And the Suburban Job number 1 kind of introduces us to a cast of characters that actually used to be friends, and now they no longer are. There also seems to be a heist kind of element to this, so I'm excited to see what happens with the Suburban Job. I really like Frank Gogol's writing. He really knows how to like get into the feels and make me feel something after I'm done reading the book. I really liked his collection of short comics called Grief. And so I highly suggest that one. And then obviously I've spoken about Dead End Kids. I haven't got to read No Heroine. I was going through a rough time whenever those books were coming out, so I kind of missed all of them. But hopefully I'll be able to get a trade collection of those so I can read that story as well, because I am a big fan of Frank Gogol and the way he writes. WARCORNS, Combat Unicorns for Hire. I believe this is also Source Point Press. This is from Garrett Gunn, and this is the first issue of his Back to Basics storyline. If you read the original WARCORNS, the one-shot, it just kind of like drops us into a scenario where some things happen with the WARCORNS while they're on a mission and everything. And it's really cool. So I guess because it was successful enough, he went ahead and expanded that out into a Back to Basics where we kind of go back to the beginning of the WARCORNS and where they came from. I actually have, I think, the whole series already because this started as a Kickstarter project. So I was able to go ahead and get all the copies of that. And I've really enjoyed them so far. I only read the first one up to this point, but I mean, I've read the one shot and then I've read the first of Back to Basics. And so I'm excited for the entire world to be able to get their hands on these because it's, I don't know, it's Garrett Gunn. So like it's lighthearted and it's fun. It exists in the Franklin and Ghost universe. So if you're familiar with any of that stuff, then you would, and you enjoyed it, then you would probably definitely like WARCORNS. Steambound #1. I really don't know anything about this other than the cover caught my attention. And I like steampunk and really any of the punk genres, but steampunk is one that I've always really enjoyed. And so whenever I see something called Steambound, it has a cool cover. It kind of reminds me of like an 80s nostalgia influence kind of cover with a lot of like neon colors and things like that. So I'm going to check out the first one and see what it's actually all about and see if I like it, because I don't know. What I've seen of it so far, it looks pretty cool. And let me just say, like, I generally try to avoid as many previews as possible. I generally judge a book based on the creative team behind it and the cover, at least for the #1s. And so if I like that stuff, I jump in, because a lot of times if I read too many previews, I will talk myself out of it, or I will develop a certain expectation. And I almost always find if I go into a book with no expectations, I'm pleasantly surprised. But even if it's a great #1, if I've read enough previews and solicits and I've seen enough hype about it, it almost always disappoints because it can't live up to what I've created in my mind. So I kind of have this stance right now of like, I don't even want to see previews and solicits. I am going to judge a book by its cover, as bad as that sounds, and the creative team that's created it. And Steambound had a cool cover, so I'm interested to at least give that a shot. Kaiju Score #3 will be out this week. I've really enjoyed this book. I'm more interested in the world that it's created than the characters per se, and which can be kind of weird because it is a heist book, and usually heist stories are carried by the characters. But there is like really interesting things happening with these characters, and there's a lot of cool like flip it on its head stuff and things like that. So I've really enjoyed the first two. I know some people have been in and out on it. I really enjoyed the first two. I thought the first one was great. The second one really expanded my idea of what this story is going to be. It had a nice little twist in that shakes things up, which is really cool because you're kind of seeing characters rebound from like poor planning and like not doing a good job of creating their heists originally. And this time they've like crossed every T and dotted every I, and then things go sideways quick because of things that were really kind of out of their control. So I'm interested to see where the rest of the story goes from there. Usagi Yojimbo, Wanderer's Road #3. I've talked pretty extensively about this, but basically they replaced the Color Classics Usagi original stories. They replaced those with Wanderer's Road, but it's still kind of the same thing. You're getting like old stories from Usagi that have kind of been redone in color and revamped and updated so that they fit a modern aesthetic a little bit better. So this is a great collection to have because I really like the way that they tend to show us something from Usagi's past, and then the actual series will dig into the current state of that situation or relationship or whatever it is. So highly suggest Wanderer's Road if you're into Usagi. If you're not, then get into Usagi and then get Wanderer's Road. But either way, I think it's a great book and I really enjoy it. The final stretch here are some big books. I'm really excited for like all of these. Department of Truth #5, of course. I mean, Tynion's been killing it on this book. I really love where we're at with issue number 5. Definitely one of my favorite series of 2020. Definitely a favorite new series of 2020. And I'm excited to keep it, for it to keep going. I really wasn't sure how in on this I was when they first announced it and the first one was coming out. Like, I was excited for the first one, but I wasn't quite sure how much I was going to get into the book because I didn't know what exactly it was going to connect to. I was scared it was going to get into like real world politics and connecting to that kind of stuff, and I didn't want that. And I feel like the first issue did kind of lean into like mainstream conspiracy theory culture and stuff. But I'm really excited for where they took it from there, and they kind of got away from that and got more into the inner workings of conspiracy culture. So I'm excited to see where it goes from there. Stargazer number 5. I'm pretty excited for this one. I am admittedly way behind. I know I keep saying I'm excited for the next one and I'm not really getting caught up. But I really like those first 2 issues enough that I absolutely can't wait for this whole series to be done. I am still collecting it. I am still hoping to get caught up soon. So I'm going to stick with Stargazer even though I'm like 3 issues behind. But I'm really excited to see how it all shakes out at the end. We only find them when they're dead. Number 5. This has been a book that a lot of people have been in and out. I mean, it had a massive launch, and then it feels like everybody dropped off after the first issue, and then everybody else dropped off after the second one. And I think a lot of people turned around and dropped it at the third one. I've loved it, and the way the fourth one ended was very, I don't know, I thought it was very awesome. It was almost subversive, and that they lead you one way and then they kind of take you in a different direction. And so I'm really excited to see what the fallout is of the end of number 5, or at the end of number 4. I feel like the writing is telling a great story, but I feel like there's also been a lot of, not great depth given to the characters through the writing. So I do hope we continue to expand on the characters and kind of give them more depth in the moment, because we keep exploring a lot of their like backstories and their side stories and their history and stuff, but I feel like I don't know exactly who they are in the moment. However, as I'm talking about it, I can also tell you I think it is probably building to a great payoff as to like something that's going to happen, and we're going to understand their character relationships when we get there, because we will have like their full history by the time we get there. So I'm really enjoying We Only Find Them When They're Dead. Number 4 kind of blew my mind. I love the way it shook things up. And so I'm excited for number 5, of course, and where it's going from there. And then Something Is Killing the Children, number 14. I wonder how many people expected this series to go on for 14 issues whenever they read the beginning. I really didn't know. I kind of thought we were going to get like a mini-series out of it. Maybe like 10 to 12 issues. But here we are at number 14, and I'm really excited to see what happens next. This has been a series where Tynion has just kept building and building and building and building. And now we're at this point where we really have this big world and a pretty expansive mythos behind these characters and what all's going on. So I'm excited to see how he keeps on building that out and keeps on changing and evolving the characters. And what happens with the Order of St. George and where we're headed with all of the bigger questions in the world beyond just Archer's Peak and what we've seen in the story so far. Most importantly, though, I'm excited to see how Erica and James's story and their relationship continues to grow, because I feel like the second arc of the story, we kind of lost a little bit of those two interacting together, and then they've really brought that back, and we're seeing them work great as a team now. So I'm excited to see what that means for the future of who they become, and how awesome of a duo they might be toward the end of this story when they really have to take on some big monsters. So that's it for this week. Pretty long list, I guess, but also not that long of a list. I feel like there's a lot of books on here that I'm picking up based on the creative team or a specific creator. So I guess that's kind of my question for you guys is like, what are some of your favorite writers in comics right now? Or even just creatives. I mean, I can look at this list. I can tell you Frank Gogol I love. Garrett Gunn is awesome. Stan Sakai is always impeccable with his storytelling. James Tynion has 2 books on my list this week, so that shows you that I really like what he's doing at least on the independent side. Let's not get into Batman. And then Al Ewing and Simone Di Meo, I've talked pretty extensively about them, and We Only Find Them When They're Dead is coming out. So there's a lot of great creators on my list this week. That's what I want to know from you. What are some of your favorite creators? And, what are some books that you're excited for based on these creators? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, connect, or follow, depending on what platform you're on. And until next time, keep flipping pages.